Hey folks, and welcome to episode 50 of my making podcast. I have a ton of things to show you. I'm wearing my finished object of the last couple of weeks and I have cast on quite a few things. I have also got some Tour de Fleece talk, a couple of finished skeins that I spun, and a couple of swatches that I made to start a new pointelle inspired project. But before we get into that, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. Craftsy is an online resource for like-minded creatives just like you and I, where members can find new inspiration and advance their skills, as well as find new hobbies. I've been using Craftsy to advance my spinning skills for over a year now. I've specifically loved the Jillian Moreno spinning classes. I have learned so much in how to ply and draft and spin in different kinds of ways. So I really highly would recommend using the resource to advance your spinning skills. For the next little while, I've set myself the goal to also learn how to crochet through Craftsy courses, which is a fiber art skill I haven't mastered yet. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description down below will get a premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. I'll have all the relevant links linked in my description as always, and I'll also write down the courses that I've taken which have helped me a ton in my journey so far. So thanks again so much to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video, and let's get into my finished object. So what I'm wearing today, as well as what I've finished over the last 2 weeks, I didn't have a ton of knitting to do on this when I last showed you, so I pretty quickly after that have actually finished this. This is the Feels Right tee by Lily Kate Makes, or Lily Kate France, and this is knit in the Yarnard Baby Cotton on a 3.25mm needle. The gauge is actually a bit off. I have checked. I'm using this C-knit tool, which is like exactly 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and so it's pretty easy to gauge my gauge with this. It was a pretty cheap accessory that I bought at my local yarn store, and I just really love it. I think it's beautiful and it's easy to carry around if I don't have my like other measuring tools with me. And I don't really need that thing if I just want to see if my gauge is correct, which my gauge wasn't correct on this one. I think it has like 2 stitches off in the stitches and even more stitches off in the rows, which means my rows are shorter because I have more stitches in the row. And also my gauge is, I think, bigger, meaning that I do have a bit more positive ease in this than I had anticipated I'd get. I did knit a size 3 with size 4 sleeves, which is the same thing that I've done in my previous version. Like I said, this was knit in Yarnard Baby Cotton, which I got from like an online store here in Germany. I think they sell or ship like internationally, or at least all over Europe. So it was a relatively cheap summer project in comparison to other projects, and I also did only have like 10 grams left of my last ball, so I almost used up all of the yarn for this, which is such great news because I have like a whole Ziploc bag of leftover yarn, like rolled up yarn balls of summer projects past that I haven't used yet because I tend to buy too much yarn for my summer projects, maybe because I always tend to just crop them. But with this, I didn't actually crop it too much. I did all those decreases in the body again. And yeah, just because I have some more like muscle / just like bigger upper arms, or this is at least like my self-image of myself of having bigger arms. I don't actually have like numerical evidence that that's the case. I just like to, I don't know, have a bit of extra space here because honestly, I wouldn't want them to like, yeah, to feel, I don't know, choked, but like I wouldn't want that. Whatever, I have enough space here, and yeah, it has a bit of a looser fit. Like I said, it's mostly just probably because of the gauge that is a bit off, but I still like it. I mostly love the color, and then I also really love that I'm able to chuck it in the washing machine if I want to, because this is an acrylic cotton yarn blend, which I haven't knit an acrylic mix garment for myself ever before yet. And I think the experience was all right. Obviously, I wouldn't want to knit with acrylic a ton of the time, just from like a ecological standpoint. Like, I love working with natural fibers, just like the feel of them, like knowing that they'll biodegenerate. They're like biodegradable. They'll not like surpass my living span by like 1,000 years, which, yeah, I mean, we don't love plastic, but we all use it, kind of thing, you know? So trying not to go on a tangent with this, but yeah, I actually really, really love it. I'm wearing it with these mauve colored pants, which have just become like some of my favorite pants, and they're handmade. Like, I'm so proud of them. And I think that this like kind of whichever kind of brown with this like mauve just works super well. Okay, that is everything I finished since my last episode like came out about 2 weeks ago. So I have cast on quite a few new projects, worked on an old whip, and spun a ton. So let's get into that. A new cast on, my last summer cast on I talked about. This is sponsored by my local yarn shop, Strickverliebt. I got 2 skeins of cotton merino by Knitting for Olive to knit this, and it's tangled up. Let me just try and detangle this. This is the Iris top by Andrea Gahn. The colorway of the cotton merino is the dark sea green, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I've actually been able to knit a bit on this. This is my like take to work project because it's literally just as big as like a sock, and I'm not currently knitting on socks because I want to get a few of my other projects done before I cast on another sock. But yeah, it's pretty much the same in like weight and how much space it takes up in my purse or my backpack. The one thing I am a bit worried about, because I didn't swatch for this, I just cast on and checked my gauge with my nifty gauge tool, and it should be fine, though obviously this is 3x3 ribbing, so it's not that easy to gauge whether your gauge is correct. I'll show you what I mean by that. It's like, it does make a huge difference with like how much I pull on it. She has quite like detailed description of how you're supposed to check your gauge, like pull it out like slightly after blocking, and it should be around 30 it should be around 30 stitches per 10 centimeters. So I'm using a 3mm needle. She suggests using a 2.75mm needle, but I have checked my gauge and I didn't want it to become like too rigid, the fabric. And so I've cast on with a 3mm needle just to check how I like the look of that. And I do like the look of it, and it seems to be getting gauge for me. It is a bit of a tough project to decide on, like whether I should, because I've now come so far, whether I should kind of rip back the entire thing, like literally frog the whole thing and try again on a 2.75mm needle. I am this far into my first ball, and the pattern suggested that for my size 3, I should be fine with 2. I could get more if I needed to, but yeah, this is a really difficult call in my opinion. I chose the for like recommended gauge and sizes, I choose, because I was between sizes, which I often am with my bust circumference, I chose the smaller size. So I think if I get a bit more stretch with this gauge, I should be fine as well. Still, this is a cotton merino yarn, so it won't have the same stretchiness as just like pure merino, which Andrea uses in her pattern. So I'm not too fussed. The one, you know, it's like, it's a difficult call. I could just rip it all back and start with a 2.75mm needle, but in the end I might not like the look of that. Like, it might be a bit too stiff. I really like the feel of this fabric, which is a huge factor too, like not just gauge, but fill of fabric as well. The one thing I'm a bit like nervous about is that the one stitch like right next to the following 2 or 3 purl stitches always tends to look quite big. I have been trying to knit my purl stitches pretty tightly, but this is also a bit tiring for my hands, so I'll show you and you will see. It's always the like one closest to the following purl stitches on the right hand side. So I think it might be due to my purl tensioning. I think as long as I have the same kind of tension throughout the whole thing and it just doesn't just stop when I go into like knitting into the round, I think it should be fine. I'll probably at least knit to that point before deciding whether this is going to be something that I need to like frog and restart again, which I mean, it could be a possibility. I'll try it on, I'll see how it feels. I like the look and the feel of the fabric otherwise, except for like the one stitch that pulls a bit bigger. I hope that blocking will also help a bit with that. But then again, because it's like the same on all of the columns, it almost looks like it's intentional, and I don't really have an idea of how to like conquer that. I could be knitting the last purl stitch through the back loop is something I thought that I could do, or I could be going down in needle size obviously, and then like being very diligent about knitting those purl stitches really tight, but I also didn't want to give myself like pain in my arms. So I'm unsure about this. I really want to have the finished object. I think it's a beautiful top, but yeah, unsure about this. Maybe you'll have some insights about it. If you do, let me know. The choice with like going up with a needle size was made, like I said, mostly because I had looked at swatches that we have of this yarn in the yarn shop, and I just like the fill on the 3mm needle size, and I didn't want it to feel too stiff. So that was initially what made me choose this needle size. And then I didn't swatch, but I started the project and I checked gauge, and with like stretching it a bit, it turned out for the 30 stitch gauge that I was supposed to be getting. So this is still a bit of a mystery. I've been knitting on it quite a bit. As you can see, I've made quite some progress for it being such a small needle knit. It's been my work knit, so we'll see if I like how far I'll get. I am not opposed to frogging the entire thing if I do find that joining in the round will like change the gauge so dramatically that you'll see like a big line of these like bigger knit stitches turning tighter again, and I don't think I would like that look, but I wouldn't frog the whole thing just because it would turn out like 1 or 2 centimeters or even 3 or 4 centimeters bigger than the intended pattern with ease. You know, there's like a difference if it doesn't look nice or if it's just a bit bigger than intended. These are two kind of things for which I would take different kinds of measures. Like, I'm not opposed to frogging if it's like an actual problem, but if it's just like a miniature detail kind of thing, I wouldn't want to frog it. So we'll see. This is actually a theme in my whips, because I do have my Olga sweater also cast on, which is a friendship knit with my Esther sisterhood, and I have actually come quite a long way ever since starting this after my last episode. I think I showed this as a potential new cast on, and I cast on, as you can see. This is steamed a bit, so it doesn't like, because it rolls up a ton in the beginning. And the theme here is gauge. I don't know why I didn't go up on a 4.5mm needle right away, because I do know that I tend to be a bit of a tighter knitter, which is also why I went up. Like, sometimes you just get a feel for what kind of adjustments you need to make on your needle size. And with petite knit, I don't usually tend to have to go up, but pure gin on a 4mm needle for me doesn't really reach the intended 20 stitches, but more so a 21 to 22. But you'll also have to remember that this hasn't been like completely blocked, it's just been steamed to lay flat. So I am curious if the gauge will actually get bigger. Obviously it would be so sad if I had to rip out this whole back panel. I think it looks really nice, and it's all done, so I'll have to pick up stitches from out of like the shoulder seams from the front now. So we'll have to see. I'll have to check back again. I think I'm making size 3 or 4, which I've already gone with the smaller ones of the ones that I'm in between of. I'm mostly between like a medium and a large for petite knit patterns, and I so choose, and I then try and choose the one of which I like the intended positive ease a bit more. And I don't want to have a ton of 30cm positive ease garments. It just wouldn't, like, I don't always want to wear oversized stuff. And so with this one, I tried on my friend Joanna's one in size small, and I actually quite liked the ease that it had, but I wanted a bit more. So I thought going with a size medium would actually give me like a nice kind of positive ease. Let me check with the pattern, so I don't just like speak about theoretical numbers, but more so like actual numbers. So I have decided on going with size medium, which is size 4, and should give me a positive ease of about 19 to 20 centimeters of positive ease. 118 centimeters finished bust, and I have about a 99 centimeter bust. So I'll have to do the math, which is something I want to do after filming this episode, is if I do have 1 or 2 stitches more in the end, will I still like the positive ease that I'm left with? So I could do that, like doing some math. I should be able to do that. Another option would be to actually wet block this and see how much it would grow, and then see if that would help out the gauge issue before like ribbing back any of it, because I actually don't really want to have to knit it again. I mean, it was fun, but yeah, I mean, who wants to knit things multiple times if the first time is actually fine? You'll see my problem here, and these are the measures that I've thought about taking before reaching a decision. Like, I'll do the math on how much positive ease I'll end up with if the gauge is still 2 extra stitches in the 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and if I feel like that would be too little, I'll wet block this and see if the gauge turns out actually smaller, and that would mean that I'll get a bit more positive ease. And then the last option would be to rip it back and knit it on a 4.5mm needle, which is actually something a friend of mine who's also knitting this right now is doing. We just talked about this in the group, and this is how I like came to the realization of, well, Marlene, you wanted to check your gauge again, and then I did, and then it told me that, yeah, my gauge is not correct, which, I don't know, I'm not surprised. I just didn't want to gauge swatch a yarn I have knitted plenty of time. I don't know why I just didn't go up to a 4.5mm from the beginning, because it actually feels a bit dense, which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to steam it, to see if it gets a bit more soft or like drapey, which it got. Like, I don't mind the drapiness of the garment. I think it's fine. It's more so a question of, does it have enough positive ease in the end? And I'll check back in with you about that in the next episode. I don't want to sound redundant and like keep repeating myself, so I'll move on to my book club cardigan by Sarah Nordland, which I've actually made some progress on, you guys. I am so proud of myself. You don't have to be proud of me. I am plenty proud of myself. I had maybe just reached like this point where my progress keeper is in, and I felt so unfocused and like unable to sit down and concentrate on this. Like after work, I just didn't feel like reading charts. I just felt mentally unable to do it. And I think it's fine. Like I've gotten so many nice responses on sharing about this on my latest podcast, and a few people mentioned that they had felt similarly, and that there is just like specific seasons and situations for difficult knits, and then other seasons of life or situations in life call for easy stockinette, and that's fine. Anyways, I did take the time on like a rainy Monday afternoon where I was off work, and I had like planned a creative afternoon for myself. I sat down, I like had the window open, listened to the rain, and I locked in on the pattern again, and it worked. I was so proud of myself. I am knitting this in a mini knit along with Laura from Tiny Human Knits, and then I was catching up on her podcast and like listening or watching her latest 2 episodes, and it is, as she mentioned this knit, which she's so much further ahead in the project, it just really motivated me to get to a similar point in the project as well. So I'm back to it, and I'm so happy about it. This is knit up in the Soleil by Hillesvåg and a pure mohair lace thread by Atelier Citron, which is a German brand, and that's called Extra Klasse. And I think I must have gone up with a needle. I'm actually using my 4.5s in this one because I couldn't, like in this life or the next, get gauge with the suggested needle by Sari Nordlund. So yeah, I'm super happy with this. My goal is to finish this by Rhinebeck, to be able to wear it to Rhinebeck. So we'll see. I hope that I'll be able to do that, and it'll be a priority of mine. But I am also bitten by the cast on or swatching bug. As you've been able to see if you're watching my podcast regularly or checking in with my Instagram stories, I've been obsessed with pointelle lace in knitting, as have so many other people. I know I'm I'm maybe discovering a trend, but like not making the trend. I know a lot of people have been loving it, but with the like Flirty by Brana Mason that I made, and my friend Lydia has a sock pattern. I'm forgetting the name now, but I really would love to make it again. I wasn't super happy with my yarn choice in the first version that I made, which is a like variegated yarn. Beautiful variegated yarn, but like the choice of color and the choice of pattern weren't a match made in heaven in that instance. But I test knit those socks for her, and I'll insert the name here because it must have slipped my mind right now. But I really want to make them again in Button by Coast to Coast Yarn Co., which is like one of my favorite like cream perfect sock colors. I've already made one pair of like lace socks in a similar color, but from Olivia and Oliver fibers, and so I'd love to make a button sock, which is why I ordered that in the most recent Coast to Coast collection. I wasn't able to advertise it here. As you may know, I'm an affiliate with Erin. I've been her first affiliate she's ever had, because I was brave enough to reach out, and yeah, I'm just so happy to be knitting with her yarn again. I've got some from her latest collection here, which I haven't touched yet. But yeah, I had to order another skein of button in like classic sock, and she'll have a second round in autumn again, which I love that she's doing that, because that means that people who kind of missed out on the first round will have a chance to shop the second. And I'll hopefully be able to make another sample, just as I did with the quilt collection, where I was able to show off a couple of the colors in a project again. So that's unconnected, and again, a showcase of how my brain sometimes just goes off in a completely different direction. But I wanted to just mention that if you ever want to shop with Erin, my affiliate link is always linked in my description and in my Insta bio, and I'll share more about the collection whenever I do get my yarn in that I ordered now, which I'll be able to get to the yarn once I'm in the US in autumn, since I didn't want to have it shipped to my house in Germany at this point in time. I've not had a huge, like, terrible experience with customs in the past, especially from coast to coast. It's been fine, especially if you're ordering like under 100 euros. But with the current situation and climate, I was just very, very happy that I got to order it to my friend Chelsea's house and have it like be there waiting for me. And I'll share more about it if we're like getting closer to the second round of the collection. And yeah, if you want to check it out, go follow Erin on Instagram. She's my favorite like yarn dyer of them all. Okay, upcoming cast-ons. I mentioned I have like a pointelle enthusiasm. I love to wear like cotton pointelle knits under cardigans and such. So I have a couple of like store-bought pointelle t-shirts, long sleeves. But there are a couple of new designs coming out, like 2 new designs. One is just recently been published. One is very close to testing, and then another one has been in my favorites for a while, so it's not new. So the Mariel blouse by Maria of Maria's Werden, I think is her Instagram name. And then the Maple Meadow cardigan by Famke of Maybe the Label, who's the maker also of this bag, which is one of my favorite project bags. And then the Vilma top by Gregoria Fibers, which I would say is like a classic design already. And I have swatched for a couple of these options, and I'm looking forward to knitting a couple of them. So I'll just have to decide which one will be cast on. And this is kind of, yeah, imploding my plans of just knitting from my Make 9 for the rest of the year. Just a tiny bit. I'm still trying to get my plans done, and I quite like reviewing my goals and have gotten so many great suggestions for how to kind of adjust my Make 9 and like planning for next year. So I've already made some plans for my plans of planning next year. And I'm so excited to share them, but like closer to the end of the year, start of next year, I'll try and get into a bit more of a flexible planning schedule, because I love to plan. They don't, like, the plans themselves don't stress me out. I want to knit from stash. These are all truths, but still I need a bit more space for spontaneous cast-ons, for like getting swept up by my friends' plans and their enthusiasm for projects, by the possible test knit here and there for like new published designs like the Mariel blouse, which like took my breath away when I saw it. I just want to have a bit more flexibility for that. So I have applied to test the Maple Meadow cardigan by Famke, and so we'll see. I have not received an answer yet, so I don't know if I'll have to, or I'll get to knit the cardigan in the test knitting time, or if I might just get the pattern later on. And then I have, like I said, swatch for a couple of designs. The Vilma top, 2 of my best friends are currently knitting it. Marla is like almost finished. She also has a podcast here on YouTube, which is in German, as well as Lydia, who a lot of you might also know. She also has a German podcast on here sharing about her knits, and they're both knitting it, like literally making me want to cast it on as well, so much. So I have swatched for it, but I'm unsure if this will be the right choice. This is like just pure alpaca yarn, and I've held it double to reach gauge, which I'm pretty bang on with gauge, maybe like 1 or like a half stitch too big. But this is just the most drapiest thing of them all, and I have tried on my friend Lydia's version in heavy merino just yesterday when we spent the day together, and I really like the sturdiness and like the structure of her version, which made me think that this is just probably going to be a bit too frilly or like, yeah. I might hold a strand of knitting for Olive Merino with one strand of this pure alpaca, which I got from a not local but like German alpaca farm that I visited. I got this actually from a German yarn festival last year, but they also have a farm a couple of hours from where I live. And so yeah, that would be an option. And then I was using the Vovo by Retrosaria Rosa Pomar that I got when I was at a yarn store in Bremen with my friends in the spring. And I had intended this to be another cardigan, but I don't know, maybe I wasn't sure about the pattern from the beginning. People have told me that they didn't really see this being like a Marlene project, like a thing that would fit me perfectly, but I was very like, I felt strongly about the pattern and I might still want to make it, but I mostly feel strongly about this color of yarn. So I might also see this becoming either the vest. I think the Vilma top would be gorgeous in this, like wearing a white, I guess the t-shirt, just like a white t-shirt underneath and having this as like a vest. I think that would be gorgeous. But I'd also try to knit it to the gauge of the Maple Meadow cardigan, which was a bit difficult because this is just a sport, and I think her pattern is like 19 stitches with more of like a sport and a heavier lace. So I'm not sure. No decisions have been made so far, especially because I need to wait whether I'm picked for the test knit or not, and then also just seeing whether I want to make the space and the time for these projects now, or whether I just needed to get a couple of swatches out of my system and I'll just wait with a cast on a bit more and focus on my makes now. I wanted to show my first finished skeins for Tour de Fleece, then I'll have one tiny sewing update and that'll be it for this episode. So hang on if you're still here. Thanks for watching. Actually, I recently checked my like analytics on YouTube, which is something no person should do, especially during the summer months, which always tend to be so slow. And like YouTube keeps telling me that like no one's interested in my videos anymore. All the numbers are down, like all these downward facing arrows, and like it's so depressing and frustrating looking at them, which is why I try not to do that. But I went in on a tangent, like I went in to look at the analytics. Like I said, just more people are spending more time outside. It's the summer, it's no big deal. It's been like that for like the last 3 years, and people always came back for the autumn. So I don't know why I'm sharing this. Oh yeah, I know I know why I'm sharing this. Almost 40% of people regularly coming back to watch these videos and hopefully enjoying them are not subscribed to the channel. And I just thought I'd put it out there because it would mean the world to me if you could consider subscribing to my channel. It helps out the channel so much. It helps the work that I do here, the time that I spend. It's very motivational. We're almost at 20,000 people like on this channel, which is crazy, but also really cool. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so, and I'll get back with my spinning. Okay, that was a tangent again. You know me. Tour de Fleece Femme is starting today, which is arguably even more exciting than the Tour de France of the men has been for the last almost 3 weeks. I've had the time of my life. I've been treadling away. I've been watching as much as I can of the tour. I'm an enthusiast of the cycling sport, even though I'm not really cycling myself yet. It's a very expensive hobby, so we'll see. I would love to get into it, but yeah, I don't know if I've got the time or the money for it. So we'll see. I'll check back in. I'm running for now, and I'm running faster and further than I've been ever before. So I'm so proud. And not a tangent. Great, Marlene. Get back to the topic of spinning. Okay, so the Tour de Fleece Femme is starting today, and I can't wait for it. I'm filming now, so I can just plop myself on the couch later on, keep on spinning, knitting, and watching the women do what they like battle it out on those, I think, 9 stages of the Tour de France Femme. I'm so excited. I've got my team on my fantasy cycling team ready. I hope that I'll be able to win this time. I'm actually 3rd out of 10 people from the men's version, and I think my team is actually quite good for the women's version as well. So I know I get very competitive. So yeah, I've still been spinning and plying away watching these stages, and I have finished my 2 first skeins. Here they are. They turn out so much thinner than I had anticipated. They're actually like from the meterage yardage I should get. I always check that before washing, and then I usually have the ability to like put it back on my Swift and then just see by how much it shrunk, and then take my numbers again. So I count threads that I have on my Swift, and then multiply it by the setting that I have my Swift on, which on the biggest size it's like 155 centimeters, and then usually the yarn loses a bit of its length, and so I have to get to one of the smaller settings, and that by that I can kind of try and check meterage for the finished skein. So I only have the meterage of the pre-washed skeins, which was about a light fingering, which I've never been able to achieve, and I actually didn't even want to achieve. But I mean, I might even have enough for the project that I wanted to make with this to hold it double and still have enough meterage, which is crazy. I'll show you the skeins and then we'll get more into the numbers. So I'm extremely proud of how nice this has turned out. This is like half of my project done. This is by Bow Layers Orchards. I got the fiber, like the roving, at Rhinebeck last year, and this is a Romandel CVM in a natural gray color. Obviously you can see this. I wanted to make the Hesper shawl with it and spin and ply a couple of artifacts of appreciation bats with it, but I've been struggling plying or spinning the bats. I've really been struggling, and I don't really want to spin them as fine as I spun this, so because I'm not sure if I will be able to hold them double. And I'm not sure. I talked about the struggles I've been having with my spinning wheel and then oiling it and having no troubles at all anymore. But the fiber of the bats just seem to be so short that I'm having like breakage a lot of the time. So I just need to, again, sit down, be patient, spin on it. With this, at the end, I was just doing short forward, just to have a bit more grip on it. I wanted to spin this Woolen to begin with, but in the end I didn't. And still, because it's a Woolen prep and like a worsted spun, then it's still kind of like a semi-worsted or semi-woolen, and it's like so squishy. Like there's so much air in this still, so I think it might even plump up and knit up at like a sport weight gauge, even if it's more of like a light fingering to fingering yardage. So I'm excited to knit with it, but I'm unsure if it'll turn out into the exact knitting plan that I had set out for it initially. But that also means that I might be able to shop for yarn for the Hesper, which could also be a nice thing to do at Rhinebeck, because I don't actually have any shopping plans yet. By this time last year, I had like vision boards and like dreams and hopes and all of that like visualized, and that just shows me that like going somewhere for the first time and like researching all the possible vendors that could be there, it's not the same for me this year, which I think, like I said, is understandable. I mean, I went for community and friends the first time as well, but I also was so excited to try out so many products I've never had the opportunity to try, whereas this year, I think the community and friend and food and meeting up people and just looking around and maybe finding things more spontaneously will be an even bigger priority than last year. So maybe a Hesper shawl kit, like self-made kit, could be something that I'm looking for, but definitely I'll be looking for spinning fiber because I don't actually have a spinning fiber stash. I have like 3 more tops and like 1 bat in my collection other than the ones I'm currently spinning on. So I'm quite happy about not having a huge fiber stash, but I love to get a few like tops here and there to have a bit more to spin on after coming back from Rhinebeck. So yeah, I'm so proud of these. It was so much fun to spin them. I'll be definitely trying to finish more of this during the Tour de Fleece / Tour de France Femme. And like I said, if you are also into cycling and like have maybe a fantasy cycling team or want to share about your favorite rider, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you've been spinning on during Tour de Fleece, if you've been spinning on, if you're on a team, if you've got any goals. This should be around, like this is around 120 grams and about 600 meters pre-washing. So that's a ton. Like it's probably more so around the 500 meter mark washed, but like I said, I'll check and maybe I'll just put it, I always have it in my Ravelry project. So yeah, if you want to chat more about Tour de Fleece, let me know in the comments. And then lastly, sewing. I'm only gonna put in a picture because I have cut all of the strips for my first ever like quilt wall hanging, and it was an adventure. It actually worked out quite well after I bought a new cutter, because let me tell y'all, if you wanna sew, invest in a good cutter. If you buy cheap, you'll buy twice, that's for sure. I had a really cheap cutter to begin with and it was horrible, and I had to like put all of my body weight into like cutting every strip, and like I slipped on some of the occasions because it was just so difficult to get through the fabric. And then I got this new one, I'll also insert a picture, and I love it. It was highly recommended online and it's just like cutting butter. It's amazing. So I cut all the strips. Like I said, I'm gonna insert a picture of the color combinations. I'll insert the name of the quilt I'm gonna make. It's by Joss Makes Quilts. It's a beginner quilt. I'll have the large crib size, and then I'll try and get as far ahead as I can with it. It's always difficult to like convert the inches into the centimeters because they turn out to be such like random numbers, like 11.36 centimeters, which isn't as easy to like get right on all of these strips. So I hope that my cutting hasn't, like I haven't done too much of a terrible job with that. And I'm actually, yeah, it's actually going quite well, but I haven't sewn anything yet. But I've done all the prep, which I'm quite excited about. I'm hoping to share more about this project in my next episode. Well, that's it. I don't have any more books or other things to talk about since I've mostly been watching the tour. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again to Craftsy for sponsoring today's episode, and go check out all the links as always in my description box. You can follow me on Instagram at Marlene Knits, and I hope you're taking care of yourselves and the people around you. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.